Night one, that cold transfer through the shoulders. Welcome to this episode of Bushwhacked Adventures. I want to share with you 3 nights of camping here on my patio in my Haven Safari. What I've done in those 3 nights is I've taken 3 suggestions that I've found circulating online in forums and such related to hammock camping as to what can you do to stay warm camping in cooler temperatures. I have my own suggestion. I've run a few videos about that. I can put a space blanket underneath, a reflective blanket, and then another pad, and then my heavy-duty winter sleeping bag. I'm pretty confident I could go below 0 Fahrenheit with that setup. I have camped to 8 below in a ground tent with that setup. So I'm confident in what I have, but I was really curious about some suggestions that other people are throwing out there. See if I can do any better. So I am going to throw out 2 disclaimers. We're not going to talk about hot tent camping. That is awesome. And I'll probably I'm looking at getting a hot tent to use with the hammock because I've already got a stove with my teepee, but the teepee won't really fit this setup. So that's not going to be discussed in these options. The second thing is I'm not going to talk about an underquilt. The reason why is I don't really feel like the fly gives you the protection you need to really protect your underquilt. If you have a larger fly or structure you're putting up over the top, sure, you could do that. But for the existing rain fly with the Haven tent, I think you're a little bit exposed on the ends, and you run the risk of your underquilt, if you're in a freezing rain or something, it's not going to be very helpful. Okay, so with that, I have actually talked to Haven tents, just inquiring, have they looked at doing an underquilt for the Haven tent? And the reply is, stay tuned, nothing imminent right now. But it's something they're aware of as a value add for the tent structure. But in their minds, they are addressing kind of the rain fly design before they really kind of go that direction. So they're working on some modifications. Just their response is, stay tuned. We'll see what they come up with. So for right now, we're left to our own thoughts as to how we want to stay warm. So what I've done is I've already camped for 3 nights right here in this area, and I've used 3 different systems, which will open up the fly and share those with you here. Night 1 suggestion was to use a wool blanket. And disclaimer for this, every night I used the same sleeping bag. I always keep an extra quilt in case I need it. It's there. I didn't need it at all for this trial. Night 1, wool blanket. The wool blanket is placed underneath, and you'll see the footage of that as I go through night 1. It got down to around 30 degrees, and it worked well. Definitely, it's an improvement on just the pad, okay? It adds another layer of insulation that helps to provide a little more protection. Night 2, we went electric, okay? This is a blanket offered by King Camp. It's a heated outdoor equipment blanket that runs on 12 volt. And specifically, it runs on 12 volt USB. So I can use a power bank that is pretty small, and the attachment is pretty small. This on high setting runs at about 17 watts. On low, it has a constant draw of about 2. Okay, that was night number 2. Night number 3, I went with closed cell insulation with the reflective film. This was a suggestion that somebody had online. And honestly, I think it's a good suggestion. And with each of these suggestions, one thing that I'm mindful of is the very first night I slept in this hammock, right here, right there in that location, I got cold, right? I felt a little coolness coming through the pad, but I felt it through my shoulders. So Stay tuned to night number 3, where I'm able to use the closed cell foam. You notice I have 2 pads here, and stay tuned to how I set this up for night 3. And I think it helped to address, at least from my perspective, that cold transfer through the shoulders. So that's, I really liked the way that turned out. But with each of these scenarios, you have to take into consideration, where are you camping? Is it car camping? Are you backpacking? What is the scenario? Okay, how much extra weight and bulk do you want to take along? This is pretty good. It's got some weight to it. Natural fibers, that wool, it's a little heavy, but it's good. This is pretty bougie, honestly. It was a very comfortable night's sleep, I will admit. But the concern is power. How many nights can you go on a battery pack, or do you need a bigger battery pack? If you're car camping, you've got plenty of power right there. Go with it. It's a great option. It's not super bulky as compared to the pads here, but these pads, the way that they were set up, it really did help with the cold shoulder that you may experience while you're hammock camping. So with that, we'll go ahead and go into night 1, wool blanket, night 2, the electric blanket, night 3, the closed cell foam. And I'll say, if you have other suggestions, put them in the comments. Let me know. I'm curious as to what is the best approach. Underquilt, yeah, I've talked about that. Hot tent, that's the king of the hill right there with the hot tent. Get your stove fired up. But even with that, are you stoking your stove all night long? You're not getting much sleep if you're doing that. So in terms of true sleep, what's the best option? Okay, we're going to now get into each night, and we'll do a recap once we're done. Experiment number 1 tonight. What we're doing is taking the pad, and underneath, the suggestion was put a wool blanket in. Okay, so I've got a wool blanket underneath here. You can kind of see that right there. I think it's a 55% wool and then cotton blend, but it's something that will help to provide a little extra insulation as we give this a try. Current temperature, get this, it's December 9th and we're sitting at about 45 degrees here right now. We're gonna just check and see how cold it gets. I think it's supposed to get down around 30. So right now, I'm gonna do similar things as I would normally do on a winter camp. I've got my sleeping bag. I already have my Nalgene bottle slid into a sock in the sleeping bag, warming it up a little bit. It's down here at the toe box probably. I would normally add a couple of hand warmers. I don't think I'm gonna need it tonight, but we'll see. I think I'm gonna be just fine with this setup. I've got a clean, dry pair of socks on, which is something I always try to do whenever I go out, to save a clean, dry pair of socks to put on the feet before I climb into bed. And other than that, it's just a matter of dry layers. Anything wet, I take off. Other than that, I keep my layers on. So we're gonna go ahead and climb in, get comfortable. It's about 9:45 right now, so we'll see how I go. I'm in. It doesn't take a lot to get in this. It sets up really easy and it's really comfortable. Wool blanket underneath the Haven pad with the extra Haven insulated pad and my sleeping bag. This sleeping bag is rated at 15 degrees, so not a cold weather bag, but pretty good. It's a good 3-season sleeping bag. With that, we'll see you in the morning. Good morning. It's about 5:40 right now, and current temperature in the tent is 45,
and outside is 37. So did not get super cold last night. You can see here 45 indoor, 37 at the sensor outside. So how did I sleep? In terms of the hammock, did I get cold? It got cool. The pad with the wool blanket underneath, it helps. I remember what it's like to sleep with just the pad, so I can compare that to the wool blanket, and yes, it definitely helps. So it is an option to consider when you're looking at layering your system to see what's going to work best for you. But I'll be honest, I think that I got as much benefit, or maybe even more, out of the reflective emergency blanket. And you just think of the difference in the size and the bulk of those two items. That takes up no space at all and no weight.
Welcome to night 2. Tonight, what we're going to do, we're going to use an electric blanket. Sounds cozy. We're going to find out. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I think it can be. The question is, how much power does it take to keep an electric blanket running all night long? King Camp, you can read any of this? King Camp Pad 250. It's a blanket that runs off of a USB-C port. So that is what we're looking at. Now, I did a little testing before this and found when you have this running on high, it runs around 18 watts. And at a rate of 18 watts, what does it take to power this through the night? Well, let's get this tossed over in there. We're going to find out. But what would be ideal? The whole idea here is to find out what are some options to help keep you warm, comfortable for wintertime hammocking, taking suggestions from the internet that I've heard from other people, testing them out, see how they work for me, and just doing a comparison. So with the electric blanket option, you have to have power. This is ideal, but it's not enough power. This little pack right here is about 43,000 milliamp hours. It would run the blanket for about 6 to 6.5 hours. Not enough. You get into the winter time, you may be in your hammock for 8 to 10 hours for the night, right? Because it's dark a lot and a long time. So you get one night out of this. If you brought a few of these along, you'd be okay. But as another solution, a little bit bigger. This is an Anchor power supply. 200, I think that's the rating on it. It's going to be enough to get me through the night. I'm going to be curious to see how long it lasts. Could I take this and get a couple of nights with the electric blanket? Does that make it viable? This is, I think, 5-6 pounds if I remember right. So I'm not going to backpack in with this thing. But if I'm car camping, I'm nearby, have that as a power source to power my electric blanket through the night, I'm going to give it a try, see how it works. So I'm going to get this set up and get the blanket powered on. I have my extra blanket if it's needed, but with this here, it has some straps to be able to kind of secure to the corners. Heated Camp Pad 250. So it's kind of a plasticky material. I don't know that I really want to lay directly on that. So I think what I'm going to do is to tuck this underneath the Haven pad, kind of in between the two. I like that idea. That's because that's a lot nicer to sleep on. So give me a minute, I'll work on that. All right, so this is gonna go here. Wrap that there. And that there. There's a control here for heat and time. I'm not sure of the specifics on that. I'll look that up once I kind of get it turned on, but I know there's a high and a low setting. Just playing around with it, it seemed like the low setting was only like 2 milliamp hours or 2 watts. So I really honestly don't know how well 2 watts would help, but the 18 watts I know is similar to like a low setting on other 12 volt heated blankets. So that's the setting I'm gonna start with and just give it a try and see how it goes. Plug it in. We're at 98% current output, 17 watts. I got a little red heat light here. All right, so we've got 17 watts. Now, current temperature, about 40-ish. We are ready. And it's a little after 10, actually 10:15. So I'm gonna go ahead and climb in and give you an update as soon as I'm in, see if I can feel the heat off of that, and then we'll figure out if it's gonna last the night, or if I'm turning it off because I'm too warm, or if it's not warm enough. So stay tuned. Be back to you in a minute. All right, back to you. It's been 15-20 minutes. I can start to feel the heat through the pad, the sleeping bag underneath me. It feels nice. It's comfortable. Checking out. See you in the morning.
Good morning. I slept really good last night. Oh. It's about 6 o'clock right now. I've got to get up and get ready for the day, but I started out with this King pad, or King Camp electric pad. Started it on high, and then went to medium, and then ultimately turned it down to low. Let it run for the 3 hours, and I slept really good for about 5 hours. I woke up around 3:30. Oh. Not because I was cold, but I just woke up around 3:30, and I could tell it was cooling down a little, so I reset it again on low for another cycle. It's now 6 o'clock, and I've got to get up, and I was super impressed. At that time, it was 34 degrees outside, and it was 43 degrees inside. So just a 10-degree difference being outside to inside in this Haven tent. So super cool, happy with that. I had used 16% of the battery for that 3 hour time when I run this thing on low. So obviously, with the power pack that I have here, I could go several nights with this. Well, let's see what the temperature's at right now. Inside 39, outside 32. So we got down to freezing. Cooler night than last night. That's good. But I slept really well. But here's the thing. I feel this warmth underneath me. And still, the challenge that I think that hammocks have is I can address keeping me warm in line with the pad. It's the shoulders. When you roll up against the side or you touch your knee to the side, that's when I feel the cold. And I can feel it right now just against my arm as I'm at the edge of the tent, the hammock here. So how do you deal with that? How do you keep your sides warm? So we'll figure that out. I've got an idea that I'm thinking about that may be able to address that, and that'll be the next trial, I think.
Welcome to night 3 in the hammock. And what I want to do tonight, I'm planning on trying something that addresses a couple things. My personal experience when I camp in a hammock, cold weather, is I can get insulation underneath. It addresses the cold butt syndrome. What about the cold shoulder syndrome? I noticed that when my shoulder gets up the edge of the hammock, I feel the cold transfer through my shoulders. So I have a thought on something. I'm going to try it out and see how that works. That's what we'll do tonight, and we'll show you what the plan is. Get the camera set up. I need to get the electric blanket off, so give me a hot minute here. We'll get this done. All right, that's the normal right there. This suggestion I've heard on the internet is to use an extra pad, a closed cell foam with reflectix on it. So I've ordered one in, and the idea is that you're going to put it down, right? And I believe the suggestion I heard was to actually put it underneath the pad, which makes sense. I can go with that, or at least underneath this liner. But I think there's an opportunity here to try something that will help to address the cold shoulder syndrome. So I'm going to get this set up and see if I'm barking up the wrong tree like the neighbor's dog, or if this is actually going to do something. The pad is 30 inches wide. Well, if I take 5 of those sections, it's about 30 inches wide. But if I go 6 and 7, it creates a tray which helps to provide a little bit of a shield for my shoulder there. So we're going to just test this out and see what it looks like. If I take this underneath, and pull that through, what does that do for your shoulder? It gives you a little bit of a barrier. Is this going to work? I don't know. I'm tempted to try it. There's not enough left over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You kind of need about 7 sections to be able to loop all the way around. 30 inches, another 6 here, another 6 there. So it doesn't leave enough to do this twice, but I really am curious. So we're going to try it. All right, going to cut this right here. Make sure I'm not cutting the hammock. All right, you can see here I've got the cut section, and I've got shielding here, shielding over on the other side. You get it adjusted, you get a little bit there. Now, I had this idea, so I ordered 2. Because I felt like if you're going to go diagonally, you're going to need 2 to make this idea work. And the whole idea here is I'm trying to figure out what is the best scenario to keep you warm, winter camping, but also try to minimize gear requirements, weight. So is having 2 of these, is it too much bulk? That's a decision you've got to make. I just want to see if it'll actually work. And we cut. These little foam pads, if memory serves correctly, are supposed to offer an additional R2.5 or something. So that's something to think about. Now, what do I do with the extra? I've got my little wrap around here at the shoulders. I'm going to put this underneath the feet. Get that there. And this one, well, it's going to go under the head. And wrap that in. Now I got to get it locked in the corners again. Okay. There we go. That'll be home tonight. I'll come back out later tonight, spend the night in here, report back in the morning, let you know how it goes. All right, time for bed. Same setup as normal, same sleeping bag. I use my hot water bottle just like I always do. Same clothes setup for the night. I'm ready to climb in and say goodnight. So we'll get in here, and currently, before I check out, looks like we're around 36 degrees. All right, I'm in. Doesn't take long, a couple of minutes. I'm in, comfortable right now. Headed to bed. We'll see you in the morning.
Well, good morning. I slept pretty decent. I'm warm. This is morning 3, third trial. I've got the closed cell foam with the reflective side on it. That I like it. If you remember, I cut the pad into 2 pieces, turned part of it 90 degrees so it takes 6 5-inch sections underneath me, and then 1 on each end, so a total of 8 folds, so that it creates a little bit of a wing up around my shoulders. And that, I think, definitely made a difference in the cold transfer through to my shoulders. So I think this is a win, and worth taking along if I'm on a cold weather camp. That is kind of the question, is how do you deal with the cold? And all of these trials are methods that people have used. This one isn't exactly the way I've described, or others have described it online. I'm going to say maybe this is an original thought of mine. You can see the pad there, but it's helpful. It doesn't poke up a lot, but it's just enough that I think that it made a difference for me in terms of how much cold I get into my shoulders laying in the hammock. So it's good. around 30 degrees, and it's 40 in here. So it's generally about 10 degrees warmer in the hammock, which is nice. I'll take it. All right, so first night was the wool blanket. It did okay. I think so far of the options I've tried, it performed. It performed, it did help, but less than the heated blanket, which was night 2, or the closed cell foam pad, which I did for this night. So, what do? The heated blanket, super nice, super comfortable. If you're car camping, it's a great option because you've got the weight of a battery pack to take along with you. And even if you were dropping it into a sled and pulling it in, I'd consider that. I don't know. I wouldn't backpack with that as an option. That battery pack is about 4 pounds all by itself, so you don't want to carry that. But the other thing about this, so the nights have been pretty consistent as I've compared these 3 options. And that's good. I think it kind of takes out a little bias that I may have one way or another based upon the temperature. But it's only been around 30, so I'd love to see how these systems perform at 20 or 10 or 0 degrees. What I've done in the past with my experiences last winter, I used an emergency space blanket, which takes up 0 room, and an additional pad, my X-Bed down mat, on top of the Haven tent pad. So I liked the warmth out of that. However, one thing I didn't like about that option was you only have so much headroom inside. And by putting another pad on, it made it feel a little tight. So that's part of my thinking of, is there a better system? Is there a better way to do this? I don't think you can go wrong with any option that I've tried. And really, it's a matter of kind of layering. How many layers does it take? Just like when we're up and active, when we're outdoors, you put on your base layer, you have a mid layer, a shell. You've got different layers to address the elements. Same thing. I do like the closed cell foam. Try to wrap it around your shoulders. I think that made a bit of a difference. Is it enough? I don't know. I'll keep doing it. I think it helped me. So it's maybe something you can benefit from with this. And right now, time to go to work. So I'll go ahead and end this, and we'll see you on the next one.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Click the bell to receive notifications for future content. That's all, folks. See you on our next adventure.